find my angle.
Your angle, trying to get the buff logo in, on live, on YouTube. It's such an intimate space, but I think the mics.
Testing. Testing. It's not on.
Testing.
Or should I try the other?
Try that one.
He'll put it on.
I was just going to testing.
Would you mind asking Mageda if we can have the mics on? Yeah. And then we'll literally just start.
The lights too long, so I can see anything.
No, I know, it's very dark because it was going to be a screening. I just
I can see you though.
You can see us.
Thing.
Yes, yeah, we're glowing.
Oh, good.
Centre.
It's hard, isn't it, because of the
because of the branding, but also us as well, so that doesn't feel. Maybe I'll take it from this side.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a bit more centered, yeah. Might be cheeky just because we've got the space to do it. Go right here. Yeah, there we are.
That looks good.
Yeah, and sorry that is if it's obstructing you.
No,
No,
worries.
not at all.
Thank you.
The light's really nice as well.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. The director. Yeah. What's the angle?
You know all about that.
I
I'll
do.
leave that part to you.
In fact, I do.
So that he's in this.
Is that me?
Okay.
Yes. I've literally seen the person today, so it's nearly done. I've just a few niggly
Just
bits.
testing.
Should be able to
Wonderful.
Testing.
Thanks, Dennis.
You're
Morning. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to Bath, the British Urban Film Festival. It's been going for 17 years. This is our 17th annual festival, and this morning marks day 3. We had a tremendous opening weekender with a British Urban Film Festival studio movie called Absolutely Marvellous, which I had the pleasure of being a camera operator and the executive producer of, which marks in fact Clare Anyiam-Osigwe, MBE, my lovely husband's directorial debut. And then yesterday we had a tremendous array of different international shorts. One that comes to mind is Phenom, which is about black female basketball players, and a lot of the girls that were in that documentary actually flew out from the States to be here, so you're very welcome, United States. We've got 92 films showing across the whole week, and I beseech everybody that's listening online on YouTube from around the world to, you know, or if you're in the London area, come down to Richmond. This is where we are. We're here all week. And so today, tomorrow and Thursday, we have Industry Talks. So as well as being one of the co-founders of the festival, I'm also a writer-director in my own right. And I reached out to Alicia, who is a phenomenal editor, one of the entertainment editors at the Metro newspaper, to come and have a kind of fireside, intimate chat. There's no fire here, but I feel the warmth. Because I think industry talks are really important, and I know post-pandemic, we're still sort of, shall we come out and have a chat, or shall we do it online? But I thought it was, you know, important to do so. So thank you for being here despite the weather, the tube strikes, the World Cup. I know there's other places that people can be during the day, so thank you so much for being here in person and for tuning in. Do you want to say say a few words, Alicia, about your career?
Yeah,
And
sure.
then I'll kick off. You can kick off with the questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Claire mentioned, my name is Alicia Adejobi. I am Deputy Entertainment Editor at Metro Online. My job is to support the entertainment editor, leading the team, writing news stories, features, and then all the fun stuff, doing red carpets, concerts, film screenings, press trips. But actually the most exciting part of the job for me is the real conversations that I get to have, whether it's a A-list celebrity who's in front of the camera or the people who make it happen behind the scenes like Claire does. So really excited to hear more about your career, your journey, your experience, and hopefully you guys here and everyone watching can take something away from it. So without further ado, Claire, I believe it's day 3 of this year's Buff Festival.
Yes.
How are you finding it? How is the exhaustion setting in?
You know what? Buff is a juggernaut of an event, and the truth is, it's it's family run. Me and my husband, and then now we've handed over this teenage baby to Justin Chinyeri, who is an actor, comedian, and producer in his own right. And he's a very close friend of the family, and so him and Emmanuel have known each other over 30 years. And so when we was looking for somebody to sort of succeed Emmanuel, we wanted somebody that we knew we could trust, because it's such a big thing to arrange and to program and to really kind of deliver. And it's kind of hard to kind of give somebody 17 years of knowledge, but we were training Justin during the pandemic. We actually had the festival taking place on Apple TV, and we became the first festival in the world, in fact, to have a festival room on the Apple platform and iTunes, and every week some of our films are making it into the top 10 most watched films throughout the whole of their catalogue. And it really kind of kept filmmakers, around the world that are often displaced, which is marginalised filmmakers. And when I say marginalised, I don't enjoy that victimhood, but there is a truth about, Black and ethnic minority filmmakers and the lack of finance that is available for them to make their first feature film or to continue existing in our industry. And so I think that Buff provides that safe space, that collaborative space where people can come out, find their DOP, find the actress for their next movie, get their script read and awarded, and to feel like they're not so alone in this really sort of often marginalized environment that film can be. Yeah.
Nice. And Buff that really does amazing work.
Thank you.
So in terms of yourself, I mean, a lot of people might not know, but you was actually a dermatologist. So, going into filmmaking is quite a career change.
Yeah.
How does one go from being a dermatologist into filmmaking?
Wow. So I actually started my journey at the age of 11. I actually was really big into acting. My thing was that I wanted to be the Black British Nia Long. And if you know who Nia Long is, she's that beautiful African-American actress that would play the love interest in like some really like hood films like Friday, and then like
The Best Man.
The Best Man, which is obviously getting its sort of final trilogy at the moment, with Malcolm D. Lee, who's the cousin of Spike Lee, who's the director-writer of that whole franchise. And so when I looked at what the African-Americans were doing, I would watch these films or shows as a kid and think, where's our version? Like, where's the Black British experience? And why is it always so entrenched in poverty and crime and lowbrow narratives? Like, there's a whole trajectory of life out there that we are living and experiencing. And so I classically trained at the Anna Shear Theatre School, which is responsible for the likes of Adam Deacon and Oscar winning Daniel Kaluuya and Evelyn Dua, who taught Daniel. She taught me. She was like, she's a Black Ghanaian teacher, and she really kind of instilled in us, you do have a voice here. There's not that many scripts where we're being written into the story, but hopefully as things change, if you stick at it, you will get somewhere. I didn't have that opportunity of really sticking at it. I was growing up in Islington care system, and I just didn't have, you know, that background support to carry on working in the arts. So my degree was drama with film and TV, so acting and directing as a joint honours at Brunel University. But then when I came out of university, my friends, my white counterparts, they were going straight into Sky or straight into a BBC play or production, whatever, and I just wasn't. We was just still doing sort of fringe theatre and making our own stuff. And then I stumbled across the Identity Drama School, and again, responsible for some incredible talent like John Boyega and Letitia, and we was all there at the same time. Arinze Kene, like there's just so many names. Femi is an incredible big brother and father to us all. And so I was there for 2 years whilst working part-time in retail. And I really just looked at my future, Alicia. I was like, I'm gonna basically be a starving actress eating beans on toast for the rest of my life. And as much as I love beans on toast, I can't cope. So
That student diet.
do you know what I mean? I was like, I'm now in my early 20s. I need to kind of move on. So my second love was always makeup. And I think as a woman, we have a natural affinity to want to apply makeup. And I just took a natural interest in it because I had actually very bad skin. And so I suffered with eczema and psoriasis throughout my teens, all the way into my early 20s. And I would mix and blend my own skincare products in my kitchen. And I cleared my own skin. And so people were like, what have you done? Because I guess my eczema scars were quite noticeable. So when I suddenly started turning up to places or events or nights out, raves or whatever in East London, people would say like, what have you done to your skin? So I was like, I'm actually making my own stuff. I just started researching and trial and error, and sometimes the consistency is really oily and then sometimes it's really milky, but it works. And I took a batch of creams to round the corner actually, Spitalfields Market, and I remember 20 tubs of my first mango butter face cream, and they just sold out. And I think I was just like, oh my God, I can actually make something that people will actually buy. That was a huge boost to my confidence. So I thought, you know what, the acting and the film world is not taking off. I will give it 10 years. I'm going to become a successful entrepreneur. I'm going to sell these creams like one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Anita Roddick, the late great Anita Roddick, because I had worked at the Body Shop. And then I moved on to another great woman's brand, Bobbi Brown. And then I worked at MAC. So I was always sort of working in makeup part-time to pay the bills. And then I was doing the, fringe acting. And then I was all in a rap group as well. I was just creative. I was just this creative bunny, just always trying to put fingers in pies and really just sort of enjoy, this whole essence of being creative. And then my skincare really sort of took off.
Now, when you say take off, I mean it really took off. I believe you were a member of the British Empire.
Yeah, it's so funny. Someone was sitting in the audience just now. I was like, what does BEM mean? Or BEM? Or what is that? And I was like, no, it's not like some African acronym. It actually means British Empire Medalist. And I received my medal in 2017. I guess I'm the only woman to have a medal for dermatology, I think, which is astounding because I was 31 at the time. And I just remember my brand just propelled, the name of the brand is Prime Skincare. And it's the world's first allergen-friendly vegan beauty company. And we was winning an award somewhere around the world every 3 months. No one had ever seen anything like it. I'm talking about the top of last decade when you couldn't walk into your Tesco or your Sainsbury's and see the free from aisle. It was people like me and other vegan entrepreneurs at the time, allergy-friendly vegan entrepreneurs that were sort of challenging, your Tesco's and your Sainsbury's to say, listen, I know we're a niche, but there's at least 1 million people in this country with allergies and you need to start catering for them. And I think that number has obviously risen in the last 12 years. And I'd like to think that my story, my journey contributed to that positive, reinforcement in not just health and beauty, but food and drink as well.
Nice. So you were busy smashing it in the dermatology industry. How did you find your way back to your first love, which was filmmaking and acting?
Well, I was busy minding my own business one July afternoon in 2014. and I was on the radio on a Sunday afternoon, and I was being interviewed about Bath. Not about Bath, but in between each of my interviews about Pre-May and what I was up to at the time, because I was just opening my flagship store in a shopping centre called Whiteley's, which has now just been knocked down.
Whiteley's, we miss Whiteley's.
We miss Whiteley's. That was like, you know, fancy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a cross between like Selfridges and like
Westfield.
Oh, Westfield, yeah, 100% in West London, and now I think they've knocked it down to create flats. But I had a shop there, and I was sandwiched in between Gap and Zara. And I remember thinking, like, the 11-year-old Claire that grew up in the care system, like, did you know that you was gonna do this? Like, I would talk to myself in my own head, like, wow, like, you're a proper brand, like, with your own shop, like, do you know what you're doing? And I was like, in my own head, like, oh my God, we're just gonna ride it. I don't know what I'm doing every day when I wake up, but I'm just like trying to ting really. And it seems to be working. So I was on the radio being interviewed, and I kept on hearing about the British Urban Film Festival in each of the advertising breaks. And I was like, what is this Bath? What is this British Urban Film? And why has none of my acting friends ever sent me a link or invited me down? Because at that time, the festival was going into its 9th year, and I'm like, 9 years? That's pretty much my whole life outside of finishing my degree. So I remember going on Twitter and just seeing what the conversation was, and Emmanuel had DM'd me and spoke to me in my native language, which is Igbo, Nigerian, and just welcomed me and just said hello. And it was like, yeah, maybe we should do like a limited edition cream, like Bath Pre-May. And I was like, nah, I'm a premium, I'm luxury. I'm not sure if I, want to do an urban skincare brand or whatever. But I just liked his energy. I just liked the playfulness of him, like even making that suggestion.
Not to interrupt you, but was that a line? Because as we now know, he is your husband.
That's true. That's true. Well, the funny thing is, and we often laugh about this, because him and like 2 other guys were trying to chat to me in the DMs. I mean, this is like, like the beginnings of Twitter, So like, I guess everyone's shooting their shot, and there is that line blur, isn't it, between like what's professional and like are you trying to chat me up? And the thing is, like, we laugh about, say, like, this whole renaissance of, say, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'll come back, Sierra's prayer, because a week before I met Emmanuel, I did this whole fast, and I was on, like, a ritual fast, and I was like, all right, God, like, the next guy that, like, speaks to me, like, it needs to be my husband, because like, I'm 29, and my biological clock, and all this stuff. And I think in our culture, because you're Nigerian as well, there is this sort of like, oh my God, like, you're 30 years old and you're not married, and what is going on? And you're doing business, and now you're basically like unattractive to men because you're trying to be the man and the woman with your entrepreneurial head, blah, blah. So like, culturally it's like, come on, Claire, you're sort of running out of time. But obviously in this day and age, like, I think they say like 40 is the new 20 and 50 is the new 30 and whatever. But, as women, and I can only speak as a black woman, we're ageless and timeless. So, there really isn't any need to rush. So anyway, that happened. And I said I wouldn't do a limited edition skincare brand, but I will definitely support your opening night premiere, which was a Muhammad Ali documentary. And the way it was set up was like fight night. You had Frank Bruno, you had Lloyd Honegan, you had Spencer Fearon, you had like all these amazing guys from the sport and boxing world. And I did all of the luxury goodie bags for them, because we used to give goodie bags out at the time then. It was too expensive to do that now. So sorry everyone that there weren't goodie bags out on the opening night, but it's just like, I was happy to do that as a sampling thing, and really we've been together ever since, because I just couldn't believe that this tenacious black man was doing all of this, risking his family, house and mortgage to put on this festival, because the BFI or Film London or any other faction in this country was not financially supporting the festival, and they still don't. And I think that what he has done, I think he, and now myself, I've been involved for 8 years, like the legacy of Bath is truly because we are actually a little bit insane. because most people just would have been like, this is not my issue. I'm a filmmaker in my own right. Good luck to everybody else. Take care. And, you know, sink or swim, really. But I think it always takes the tenacity of one really crazy, brave person to say, actually, I'm going to be that voice for people who can't, you know, afford to do this themselves. And that is my philanthropy. That's my give back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that you were able to sort of merge your two loves, dermatology and filmmaking, and then it sort of took off. So if we fast forward to 2018, and this is when you released your debut feature film, No Shade, powerful film about colorism. Tell me a bit about the film, first of all.
So
What the themes that it explores.
Absolutely. So you're absolutely right. Like, my directorial debut is really a melange of my two worlds. So basically, I moved on from Whiteley's. A year later, I was able to get a treatment room at Harley Street, which is the holy grail for beauty in this country, all around the world. People fly in all the time and book, you know, teeth whitening or bleaching or cosmetic surgery all down the road of Harley Street. And I was at #1 Harley Street, and I was the only black doctor there. So I got my honorary doctorate of biochemistry. And I remember I had to actually print my name on my own uniform because other doctors would just throw me a plastic bag, like rubbish, thinking I was a cleaner. Because it was so unused to seeing a black doctor. So I was like, no, I'm actually Dr. Clare. Just so you know. And they were like, oh, wow, what do you do? And they were like, so you're doing all the natural stuff. We're doing all the chemical stuff. But we need the natural stuff as aftercare. So they would start to send me their clients. So basically, my client list was just like bulging now because of the British Empire Medal, the press that came with that. And so I started getting Black and Asian women coming to my clinic and saying, Dr. Clare, you know, someone has said to me, like, my boyfriend dumped me, or my grandma has said, you know, I'm not married because I'm too dark. And I was like, what? In 2018? Because I remember being a kid at school, and I think, you know, again, any girl has those, you know, insecurities about their image and their look. But I think for black girls, especially when your parent is an immigrant, you know, to know that you're sort of like other because of this inherent beauty, this thing that you can't wash off, you know, this is you. To hear grown women saying that they were still experiencing something, or someone had made a comment about their skin tone, really bothered me. So I would say to them, bleaching creams goes against my brand's philosophy, but what I'd love to do is invite you for a free facial. Come, let's have a chat. Obviously, I'm putting on my director hat now and my writer hat on, which you never lose. You know, like, this is, you know, 8 years of not doing anything in that creative field, but still sort of like, it's always there in the back of your head. And obviously being the script judge at Bath, I was always in contact with filmmakers and writers and that creative energy. So I would listen to their stories and I would just be taking notes in my mind. And in my mind, I'm always looking for a common theme. So I was like, there's one story here, and that story is actually worthiness. And who gets to say whether you're worthy of love, of a career, of, you know, luxury, whatever your want or your desire is. But worthiness seemed to be the central theme, that all of these women that were coming to me asking for bleaching creams felt unworthy to somebody. The final straw was leaving Harley Street one day, going all the way down to Hackney to get a vegan burger from a place called Temple of Satan.
Doesn't sound like somewhere.
I know, you're like, what are you doing, Claire? Like, but Satan is actually a meat alternative.
If you say so.
Right. Okay. Sorry, God. And I was on my way there, and it's like, I think there was all this traffic, roadwork, so actually like an hour journey turned into like a 2.5 hour journey. And my mate, she was telling me about a guy that I went to university, had basically said to her that she was pretty enough for like a one-night stand, but not for like a proper relationship because she's too dark. And I was like, I've just been hearing about this dark skin, light skin rubbish. Like for a couple of weeks now, every week I'm getting an email. And now my mate is saying this to me on the phone. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna put this into a short script. And I just challenged myself, and I just wrote this short script within like 3 months. And then I got a team of actors from Buff to read it. And we did it at the Africa Centre. And they were like, Claire, you can't cover colorism in a 10-minute short. Like, go away, write the feature, and we will do this with you. Like, we will actually act in this film. So 6 weeks later, I had the feature film script written. I shopped it around to a couple of like really well-known actors. They were like, if this does well, we'll do your next film. You know, no one wants to give you a shot on that first film, right? And even though I had the Buff Association and I'm like, you know, a famous dermatologist, whatever, it's still like a first timer in the film world. So, you know, you've got to be humble. So I ended up actually closing Pre-May Skincare down because I could see the future. I was like, this is it. This is that moment where I said I'm going to go back into the film world when there's a bit more of a playing field that I pretty much created for myself. And I don't think I can do the two. I don't think I can be Dr. Clare and Claire the filmmaker. I think I've got to choose one. So I slept on it over Christmas of 2017, and then Boxing Day I woke up and I said to Emmanuel, yeah, I'm going to take off the white coat. I'm not going to do my doctor stuff anymore. I'm actually going to drop doctor from my name just to make it clear. And there is going to be that transitional period of people still like knowing me from the industry and be like, oh, yo, Dr. Clare, but what? And you're doing film? So I had to make it really clear in the press release that this was almost like a goodbye, Dr. Clare, and welcome back, original Claire, who is the, you know, actor, writer, director. And so we shot No Shade over 6.5 days in the dead of January 2018. And we edited it over 3 months. We took it to Cannes Film Festival. We found another investor to put in some money for marketing. And then we opened the festival at the Rio Cinema, 400 seats sold out. The block, it was going around the block twice of that cinema, because it's only a 1-screen cinema. And I'm sitting in the front row, and oh my God, I'm just sweating out my chest thinking, what if everyone hates this? What if this is terrible, you know? And I'm sure that some people are like, okay, it's just, you know, like a little movie, because it's not a high budget movie. But I think it's really, it's a gift, you know, and it's a letter to women, because there were women of all ethnicities everywhere that we've shown the film, in Washington, Brazil, Holland, TV has been shown, Amazon Prime, 16 million downloads, 95% of those are African American women. So, but what was beautiful is that women, you know, with the palest white skin and ginger hair were like, Claire, I know that Jade's story is about being a dark-skinned woman, but as a woman, I just related to her and that theme of worthiness. And I was like, yes! I never told no one about that kind of theme, but they were getting it. And that's when I knew, like, I did my job. Like, they got it. They got what it was about.
Nice. And, you know, as someone who obviously isn't a filmmaker, I can't imagine how difficult it is when there are so many stories that you could tell. How do you find the perfect one, especially for your first film? So is there any advice that you would give to aspiring filmmakers who are struggling to pin down that particular idea that they feel would be the strongest one for their first film?
It's such an amazing question, because there's almost that push-pull of, I want to tell a story that I feel passionately about, and I don't have the luxury of burning an investor's money, so it probably is going to come out of my own pocket. But you also want to make a film that's commercial, but then also at a certain level you have to be pioneering or innovative in your thought. It's a really tricky thing, but what I would say for like a directorial debut is tell a story that you know really well, tell a story that you're really close to, so you know the world of the characters and the situation. But I think it's in the way that you tell it that means that it's actually for the audience. Like me making No Shade, it's not actually for me. It's for women, primarily, black women, primarily, secondary women, tertiary, black men and men, to think about the power that they have when they are, you know, being derogatory to women about the way that they look. And it sounds like a very serious and sad story, and there are moments where it is, but there's a lot of humour unintentionally. So it does have that classification of being a romantic comedy. But I think, yeah, you've got to tell a story that you know really, really well, so that when you're doing your press run and you're going for distribution, you can really talk about why this story, you know, needs to be on a big screen. And I think it needs to have an audience, even if that audience is 100 people. It's for an audience, it's not for you. Like, once the film leaves your hand in that editing suite, it actually belongs to the consumer. And it's for them to tell you, yeah, I got it. Like, thank you for that story, because it now belongs to them. Yeah.
So we'll get to the money bag in a second. The all-important question. But in terms of the creative process, what kind of challenges did you face in that aspect?
Oh my goodness. So we turned up on day one to Harlesden, because I was going to shoot all of the different houses. There's like 5 different homes in the script. So I booked and rented a mansion in Harlesden, North London, so that there was 5 different rooms and we could cheat, you know, different houses. And we turned up at 7 a.m. and it was freezing cold, like snowing almost. And the key would not open the door. Like, the door was stiff. And we're like, and everyone's looking at me and Emmanuel like, and we're like, okay. So then we phoned the estate agent that gave us the key, and they were like, oh, well, the owner's away in, like, I think she's in Argentina, I thought she was somewhere. And I've got 1 spare key. So he comes an hour later, his key doesn't open the door. So, like, time is money, right? We're paying people and nothing's being shot. So we're like, okay, what's the next scene? What's the next scene? The next scene of the day was to shoot in a restaurant, which was 10 minutes around the corner, a beautiful Portuguese restaurant. So we said, look, let's get everyone there. We packed out this restaurant, like 50 people, packed out the restaurant, just said, look, everyone eat and drink on us. Now we're burning through that contingency in the line budget where you put an extra 30% that you hope to never spend, but you're spending it from moment one. So we're like, oh my God, £500 on food and you know, just breakfast. We're like, and then obviously, like, we're doing the scene and we're like, there's a glass of wine that gets thrown. This glass of wine has to get thrown 10 times. So we've got to pay for, like,
an expensive bottle of wine.
Right, so you've got to pay for the bottle of wine, you've got to pay for the white, you know, tablecloth. So we had to pay for 10 of those. Oh my God. So you're just eating through the budget, right? And then we go to another estate agent locally, and they didn't have anything. And then we just ended up going on Airbnb. And we told, you know, this renter what we were doing, so that they weren't alarmed. We're like, all these crews are turning up with cameras and stuff, and, you know, their neighbours are like, what the hell's going on? So we let them know that we're a film crew of micro-budget movie. We're going to sleep on set as well. Can we have this beautiful apartment in Kilburn? And we lucked out. It actually worked out better because we had this beautiful balcony and there's this lovely scene that was meant to be shot somewhere else, but then we shot it on a balcony. So sometimes, again, you know, as filmmakers, like, happy accidents, you know, or when things go wrong, it's about being super flexible. Because I could have broken, bended, and gone home and be like, guys, shut down the shoot day one. I can't do this. Like, it was taking everything in me not to say, do you know what? Shut down. Let's start again tomorrow. We just had to power through. So in the end, we actually spent 8 hours in that Portuguese restaurant. And then, so we're 8 hours behind schedule now. And then we somehow pulled it back at night because actually we spent an extra 3 hours. So we went into midnight to get the first scenes from the house that we're supposed to get in the morning. We got that in the evening. And I guess, you know, my casting crew, they were plied with pizza and wine. And everyone knows, you know, as filmmakers, that pizza and wine is cheap and it's just like, everybody loves it. Can't go wrong with pizza and wine. So we had that on set, and then we woke up super early at 6 instead of 8 the next morning and got on with it. And then again, day 2, we were suffering with rain. And we're supposed to be doing these exteriors. So we're like, oh my God, right. Tell those actors to stand down, because Emmanuel was producing. And my first AD, I guess. Tell those actors to come in. We're going to do the interiors instead of the exteriors. So you just cannot, you know, with all the best will in the world, you have a plan and your plans do not go to plan in filmmaking. And I think resilience and flexibility are huge characteristics to have. Otherwise you will suffer and it will feel like you're going 10 rounds with Tyson, because life, the universe, we actually started calling this invisible force of darkness Satan, Trump, Murphy. Like, we were like shooting and then the lights just went out. And we're like, huh? And then something like randomly broke. And we're like, Satan, Trump, Murphy, he's here. He is here. And we just had that running joke, and it was just like, but it's knocks, it's blows, and you've got to keep it moving and keep everyone motivated and reminding them like why we're here, the story that we're telling. You know what I mean? So,
as they say, make a plan, God laughs, isn't it?
that is so true.
So yeah, of course, you mentioned it before, the money aspect, because obviously as indie filmmakers, where is the money coming from? So where did the money come from? How as an indie filmmaker, how do you get financed?
I went to 100 finances and I was told, what is colorism? Who are you? You're not an auteur. And I was like, it's like being at school, isn't it? You know, you're 16, you get your national insurance, and everyone goes, can I see your CV? And you're like, I don't have it. This is my first job. Like, you need to give me a job to be able to put something on my CV to show that I can get the job. Like, that first timer situation is so devastating at every point of your life, right? So I'm a first-time feature film director. It's like, so who are you? What's your CV? Not much. I haven't worked in the industry for ages, but I'm a really well-known dermatologist. Who cares in film? No one. So I said to myself, all right, Claire, and that was the discussion over Boxing Day. It was literally like, okay, take out all the money from Pre-May, shut it down. My brother Andy gave me some money. Emmanuel had some money, equity in a family home, and then we got a very tiny amount of money from another investor that we met at Cannes, and we made that film, man. Yeah, I mean the budget was 300,000. We didn't spend 300,000. Probably spent about 15% of that. Wow. Because we had to pull in favours. We really pounded the pavement like mad people for help and support and in-kind, you know, things that we could get, like wardrobe. Thank you, Haddon PR. They gave us LSE tracksuits and all different, you know, clothing items that we needed because they are a PR company for several different brands. We had a local, Caribbean restaurant that did food and catering towards the end. Makeup was gifted. I ended up doing makeup myself. Like that's the thing about indie film. Everybody just chips in because they know like this is a shoestring budget. So like we just gotta like make it make sense, you know.
Yeah, and in terms of the distribution, because as Claire mentioned, No Shade is available on Amazon Prime Video. Does financing equal distribution? What kind of hurdle is that once you get the money?
Oh my God! So I know the number distinctly because we had Google Drive, like Google Sheets, and every single distribution company and every single cinema chain around the world. And we actually applied to 108 different distributors and streaming platforms or whatever, directly or indirectly, and we got a no. And I remember like at 99, I was like, I've left like a really successful career to come back into this devastating environment. And I made the film, like I flipping made it, and now I can't sell it. Like who, apart outside of the festival world, because it was getting picked up for festivals. So we had a festival in Washington, which became our US premiere. We had a festival in New York. We had a festival in Holland, and then we had an Oscar qualifying festival in Hollywood, which was amazing. And at the same time, just to throw a curveball that life obviously does, I was actually. Well, by the time we did the premiere for No Shade at Buff June 2018, I was 6 weeks pregnant. So we were just about to like embark on this like, and again, it's always the way without TMI, but it's like, yeah, let's no longer try because we're just gonna do film now for a couple of years. blam, next month, came back from Cannes, and it's like, I think we're pregnant. Emmanuel, sorry. And we're broke filmmakers now as well, so yay!
As I said, when you make a plan, God laughs.
God, skinning teeth, laughing, cackling, because yeah, that was a whole madness. So from June to September, I was actually bedridden, receiving all these no's. So I'm like, no.
You should have called the pregnancy card, but I'm pregnant.
I know, to feed my unborn child. Like, please take my film. So basically, we got a streaming deal with a platform called Film Do, and when Odeon saw that, they were like, well, if you take it off of Film Do, who are kind of like a baby version of a Netflix, we will give you a theatrical release. And I was like, me in Odeon cinemas, like a whole me. Like, we've done the festival in Odeons all around the country, but to have your own film playing in an Odeon cinema, and like, you know, Odeon, you've gone there as a child, and I just was like, yeah, we'll take it off. So we took it off this streaming platform. Bless them for giving us that first leg up, and then to have to forfeit that to do this, but it's business. And so I became the 6th black female ever to have a movie theatrically released in this country. And that is insane, because to think that there were 5 women before me, they were all financed by the BFI. I'm the 6th, but the first one to do it with my own cash. It's just like, again, like, it's like, yeah, amazing, but it's like, this is actually rare. This is actually very, very difficult. And how can we make it easier for the next Claire, the next woman that wants to come with a film that she's passionate about, believes, and that has an audience, however niche? What does that journey and that trajectory look like for the next person? Because since me, and No Shade will be 5 years old in 2023, there hasn't been another Claire in the cinema. Obviously, we've had 2 years of a pandemic, but cinemas have been openish. You know, periodically, and obviously definitely since 2022, it's hard. It's hard for independent filmmakers to get that break, and I think it was a combination of Emmanuel being my producer and husband, festival, the Buff as a legacy brand, so our production company was called Buff Originals, now known as Buff Studios. My understanding of business, because of my Dr. Clare hat, of how to do press releases. I have my own PR company, that's run between here and Lagos. And, you know, like, just that unique combination meant that I created a platform for myself that was never going to be given to me, because it still isn't being given to anybody after me, you know, so, yeah.
And I'm glad you just touched on sort of the pandemic as well, because obviously the film industry was one of the worst hit, you know, literally couldn't put bums in seats, and it's just recovering after 2 going on 3 years. Buff is obviously an independent studio. How on earth have you been able, were you able to survive the pandemic and bounce back? And, you know, it's amazing that we're even able to have the festival this year, because it's still coming off the back of the past 2 years. So yeah, how did it survive?
Great question. I mean, doing events online, as I say, you know, I'm just so grateful to you guys for actually being here today, because daytime events, we're still sort of getting back to having in-person events after having, like, the whole festival was online in, well, 2020 we had it all on Apple TV, and then we did the award ceremony at Met Film, and thank you Johnny and the gang at Met Film School who hosted the festival fully in 2019 before the pandemic. They gave us their studio cinema room to pre-record the award ceremony, which went out live on YouTube. Apple TV doesn't have a live element, so we chose to do it like that. And then 2021, it was a hybrid, so it was sort of online, and then we also had Peck and Plex, another Johnny, thank you very much, who owns Peck and Plex, and the PR firm Premier PR, who came on board last year to do pro bono PR as part of their, I guess, Black Square, George Floyd, jumping on bandwagons, we won't go there. So yeah, you know, with all due respect, there was a bit of white guilt during that time. And, you know, we were like, okay, cool, you're not going to use buff in that regard. Like, I want it to be more than just an email and foolish conversations. Like, what are you actually doing to help our filmmaking community? And so, you know, those things were really good. So we had a beautiful award ceremony at Peck and Plex. People were really drunk. Thank you, Lady Leisha and Dylan, for their beautiful vodka company called Camo Vodka that sponsored the whole award ceremony. But people were devastatingly drunk, and that was amazing. And now, you know, we're here for the full week at Rich Mix, who reached out to us at the top of this year and said, you know, come and have a home with us in East London. And so we've been here, and you know, everyone's had a really beautiful time here. It's a lovely setup. You've got the cinema bar, you've got 3 screens, and then we've got the award ceremony taking place on Friday in the stage downstairs. So we have the rehearsals for that on Friday. And so, yeah, it's that collaboration, really. You feel in film, there is no I. It's all team. You know, and you can't really do much of a team. And I am spiritual and religious, so it's you know, in the Bible it says, where 2 or more are agreed, it shall come to pass, right? You need to just find your tribe, your people who are going to have your back, and then you've got that determination to not let them down. So it's a two-way street, you know, of support, receiving support and being supportive. It goes back and forth, and that doesn't have an expiration date, because I feel like some people are like, oh, you made it now, Claire, you're good. I don't need to come out to your talk, or I don't need to watch your movies. No, please. You know, that's what our American counterparts are so good at. You know, you'll get an Ava DuVernay or a Spike Lee, and they'll go back to ABFF or PAF because they showed my first film. I was nobody. Now, yeah, I've got $100 million budgets, but I always show out for them because they supported me when I was nobody, right? So you always give back, and I know, you know, forget Emmanuel being my family. It doesn't matter what I achieve in this industry, and I'm about to do a lot of beautiful things, and I've been doing great things, which we'll come on to. I will always come back to Bath to volunteer. I've never paid myself from Bath. You know, this is my philanthropy. This is how I give back, because it's nourishment. It feeds me, and I'm a student every time. You know, I'm here today as an expert, but I am a student. I still watch other people's work, and I think there's always something to learn.
And speaking of those amazing things, exciting news. So for anyone who doesn't know, Claire has just directed some episodes of Hollyoaks, which will be out in December.
Next week, Thursday and Friday.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And over the Christmas period as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've been doing all those crazy storylines.
Oh my God.
First of all, congratulations. That's absolutely incredible. How did you even get a foot in that door in soap world?
Madness. So I actually went through 4 rounds of interviews. It was the pandemic, and I just had my second baby. I was writing, minding my own business. So you know, you should actually join Twitter. I was minding my own business on Twitter, and HBO Max slid into my DMs and were like, "Hi Claire, we've seen No Show. We love what you're doing. Have you ever thought of writing for TV?" And I was like, in my head, I'm like, no. But I'm like, yeah. And they're like, could you send us something over on the weekend? And I was like, oh, after the weekend. And I was like, yeah. Oh my God. I opened up my laptop, just started writing something, which has now become a sort of dramedy called Yomi and Krishna that I'm developing. And it's basically like Nigerian Bollywood Thelma and Louise. Female road movie or road series, and they do some badass stuff, and you know, they kick ass. And I sent them the pilot, as rough as it was, and they were like, you got something, we like your voice, let's keep developing this together. At the same time, my agent Andrew at Revolution was like, Claire, if you could direct for British TV soap, what would be your top 3? And I said, I've only got 2. And he said, well, what's the 2? And I said, Hollyoaks or EastEnders. Now, the way God laughed, because literally I had 4 rounds of interviews. I got confirmed for Hollyoaks in December last year. So I've been knowing this whole year to when I started there in August that I was gonna be on set in, you know, in the summer, but you have to keep hush. So I couldn't say anything or announce it. But then God would have it that a month before I landed on set at Hollyoaks, I actually was able to do shadow directing at EastEnders. So EastEnders and Hollyoaks are two very different disciplines. So EastEnders is multicam, so you have 3 cameras, and you don't have a director of photography, but you have camera operators. And then you sort of have like the gallery, and in the gallery they're sort of like, they're the ones who are vision mixing and editing and say, okay, we're gonna go from camera 2 to camera 1, so they're literally editing it in real time. Whereas with Hollyoaks, it's shot almost more like a feature film, because it's 1 camera, and you are definitely like proper full-on directing with your DOP, you've got your camera plans, which you do have to do at EastEnders, but it's just, they both have their unique set of challenges, because in my mind, I'm like, multicam feels easier, but actually when you're working in like the laundrette and it's like this tiny little set, where are you going to put those 3 cameras and make sure that you can't see camera 2 and 3 and camera 1 whilst blocking it so that you've got, you know, Ian Bill and whatever. It's a lot, and this is all very different from directing your own feature film where you know the story inside out. But I've been watching Hollyoaks since I was 11. Since I was in care, dreaming of being an actor, dreaming of being a director. So to actually go down to Liverpool and work with the crazy people up there in Liverpool at Line Pictures, who I absolutely love, like I made some lifelong friends, it was really, really hard. And it was really, really challenging for so many reasons. And the sort of overarching theme was that, you know, you're a southerner. Suddenly I'm a southerner, I'm from London. So I've got this like, you know, North London accent, and I'm up in the north where it's cold, it's very white, it's very white male. And they've suddenly got this, you know, because I look younger than I am, so I'm 37, but I think they thought I was like 23 or 25 or something. Bless you. It's all those years of free may pay off. So I think they kind of saw me as like I'd just come out of university. I think they're really struggling to fathom that I was actually like older than some of them, if not the same age. And then obviously you've got some of the old guard who are like 50, 60, 70. And there is this real thing in our industry where there's that push-pull of, yes, we know we need more diversity, we know we need more women, we know we need people of different ethnicities, because that actually reflects in storylines and actually in our whole community. But there's still a huge leap from knowing and wanting that you need that and welcoming it when it comes. And, you know, 95% of people are really, really lovely to me, and I love the Liverpudlian crack, you know, banter as they call it. But then there was those 1 or 2 prickly people that just made my daily experience really challenging, and it kind of boiled over into quite a significant situation where I had to shut down the set one day and actually confront somebody who, there was an energy of misogynoir, which is like racial and kind of sexism together, and I called him out and he admitted that he was wrong. He didn't apologise, but we had it out, and that was difficult, and I think I had the confidence to do it because of my position in life. I'm used to dealing with difficult people in the business world. I'm used to dealing with insurmountable challenges, having grown up in the care system. So I'm used to kind of like talking. And I think, you know, what I was trying to explain to the exec producers is that if I hadn't come from the background that I've come from, I probably would have packed up my bag that day and left. And that would be very sad, because in a sense he would have won whatever there was to win, like the winning of, ha, we got her out of here. But it's like, you need to know that you're welcome. Some of these environments are institutionally not set up for us, black or female, but or black and female, that triple niche, you know, but you make space. And when you're there, do your job. And understand that what should be chilled for you, I think John Boyega was saying this about Star Wars, his white counterparts were having the time of their lives. But suddenly he was saddled with being the first black guy in the franchise and all that, you know, racism around the world and different things on set and offset. And I think it's so devastatingly heartbreaking that as people of colour, we still have to have that in our mind. Like I would wake up every day after doing my prayers and my meditation, and I would put on a certain level of armour to say, like, no one's going to break me today. Today I don't care what foolish jokes they make, or if people are talking over me whilst I'm calling the shots, because that's what you do as a director. You call the shots to 100 people on set, and they're all looking at you like this and wanting you to, and you're like, stop. I just told you I want that camera over here. I want her to walk around. You know, you call your shots. And there was like, are you sure? Because when we usually shoot in this set, we do it like this. And you go, okay, let's do it your way. Oh, so you want to do it our way. And you're like, are you gaslighting me? I'm trying to agree. Like, because you know the set, you've been there for 30 years. I'm new. So if there is something that you can gift me that I can use, I will use it. But don't set me up so I agree with you. And then you go, oh, no. Like, so by the end, I was like, no, in my floor plan, I've got this, I'm sticking to this. And actually, being trusted to direct their landmark episodes of 5,999 and 6,000, to have a show that has a 6,000th episode, I think only outside of Hollyoaks, there's only Coronation Street and EastEnders. So Hollyoaks has been on air 27 years. I think EastEnders is 35, and then Coronation Street is 47, so an extra 20 years. This is like heritage. And, you know, a girl like me could only dream of that when I was 11 years old, studying drama at Highbury School, going through all the different life experiences and then coming full circle to do this. Yeah, let me just double back. So with regards to Hollyoaks, even though I went through 4 different interviews, because their remit is that you have to direct 5 shorts to even get an interview. And I only had no shade. But I said to them, what? I'm going to send you 5 5-minute clips, and you tell me if I can't do the job. See, again, sometimes you have to just back yourself, because I could have been like, 5 shorts. Okay. All right, well, thanks. I was like, no. 5 shorts? I've got 5 shorts in my movie. I will send you 5 scenes, and you tell me. So I sent them 5 scenes that I knew looked and felt, you know, a bit of romance, a bit of drama, a bit of action, a bit of... And the execs came back and was like, no, you totally know what you're doing. So I was like, yes. And then, yeah, you know, it was just other different, you know, questions were asked about what choices I would make, how I would bring something fresh. Because they do have sort of like a formula of, you know, cross shoot, which is like over the shoulder and reverse. So like people having a conversation like you and I, so the camera would be there to get you, and then the camera would be there to get me over your shoulder. And then you have your wide. But then as a new director, you want to do something fresh. Like you want to, you know, have the dolly. Oh my God, you've got a dolly. You've got a camera on a dolly. I could not afford this on those. The privilege of having, you know, like a breakfast set up with like jam and cheese, and, you know, like there's like 5 different loaves of bread. So like every time you get a fresh loaf, I'm like, and then you can eat the set after, you can eat the props. I'm like, oh my God, we were just enjoying. And massive shout out to Roger Skuse, who was doing my design for me. And he's like, do you know what, Claire? Love working with you, because sometimes we lay on all of this props and all of this set, and then the director does a close-up. And all my work is just like, nothing. And he's like, you proper like do sweeping shots to show the set, and you get it so quickly, and we're out on time, and we've all just loved working with you. We can't wait to see you back. So next Thursday, the 8th of December, and Friday, the 9th of December, my episodes air, and then they're on all 4 to watch for the whole year. I'm delighted to reveal that I will be going back. I'm a glutton for punishment, clearly. So they've invited me back. So I've got another block where I'll do 5 eps next year, spring. And I just want to thank like some people like Nick Pickard, who plays Tony,
Legend.
do you know what I mean? Like Alex Fletcher, who plays Diane, like the girl that plays Goldie, Jen Metcalf, who plays Mercedes, like, and Angus, who plays Eric. He's got an incredible moment in my episodes, especially that 6,000th episode on Friday, where he went to a different universe for me emotionally to get these scenes. And he actually said to me off camera, you know, Claire, I've actually made myself ill because I gave everything. I went there and I said, you know what, I'm so grateful to you. And the notes were from the exec team that this is actually extraordinary, because they've tried to ask other directors to get him there, and it's always turned into a bit of a twitch or this and that, but this was like raw emotion, and that's something that I pride myself on, again, through No Shade, and all those emotionally rich and deep scenes. Like, that's something that I love to convey on screen, is real emotion, raw emotion, because I think what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And I think those are the sorts of things that people connect to. And then, therefore, I feel like people will re-watch those episodes because they'll be like, do you know what? What my PA, Amanda Nali, who became like my best friend on set, was saying is that, Claire, do you know what you've brought to this block? You've brought cinema to Hollyoaks. And I was like, okay. Oh, I'll take that. Yeah. So, yeah.
How did you, because obviously going from working on feature films where it's sort of one main story,
Yeah.
and then So Planned, you know, one week I mean Tony's with Jane, then Jane's with Ian, and then Ian's like, turns out he's the serial killer that's bumping everyone off, and then it moves so fast. There are so many stories. So how did you sort of adjust to the fast-paced nature of it all?
I don't think you can adjust. Like, even me going back, I'm really like hyperventilating because I'm like, I hardly slept, because most nights I was rereading the script again and again. Like, you get 8 weeks of prep, but there's 8 weeks vanish, and then you get 4 weeks to shoot 5 episodes. So I had a guy that was shooting 3, and he did a big death, and I'm doing the aftermath of that death, and all this emotional turmoil of like 3 guys who are on 3 different journeys, and they all break down in my episodes and go to a different stratosphere. And so, yeah, understanding their storylines, and but also being led by the cast, because they really know their character. And the thing with Hollyoaks, the revolving chairs are the most important jobs, with all due respect. The writer, they have a different writer every episode, and the director, you have a different director every week, or you have a shared block like I had, so you have 2 directors. So we're sort of like, we have to read what was before, we have to read what's going to happen. Continuity is insane. You're just thrust into, you know, it's a Goliath. I call it a Goliath. And people say there, you know, Claire, now that you've done this, you can direct any show ever, because Hollyoaks is chaotic, it's mad. You have to be flexible, you have to be agile. Like, I started going to the gym before I went on set. Like, I started working out from the time I knew, because I knew like 8 till 6 every day in the cold in Liverpool. Like, working with people I've never worked before, coming out of, you know, being a second-time mummy. So, you know, you've got postpartum to deal with. I'm just like doing a lot personally. So professionally, I was like, I don't want them to say, oh, look at her, she couldn't cope because she's missing her kids, or she's this or she's that. You know what I mean? I was just like, no, I'm here to do my job. And I totally get it now. Like, even when I was at EastEnders for a minute, and then seeing some of the other women on set or that were on other blocks, there is almost like a defeminization that happens working in TV, where I saw women like cropped hair, no makeup, a hat, shorts, vest, and from the back you're thinking, oh, that's just another lad, and they turn around and like, oh, all right, oh, hi, wow, cool. And so when I was coming on set, you know, wearing like my Adriana Papel dresses and lipstick,
Glam always.
all glam, do you know what I mean? I'm like, are you going out? And I was like, no, I'm just coming to work. Obviously, they don't know Dr. Claire and they don't know my whole energy, but yeah, I'm a woman in film and TV, and this is what it's about. You know, it's not about kind of shrinking to fit in. It's actually standing out and being all that you are, more of you, because they need to see us.
I think you and I were saying before off camera, sometimes when you work in London, as much as we can experience racism and microaggression within our fields, we are still in the London bubble where it's probably more multicultural than other places outside of London in the UK, you know, aside from major cities, maybe Birmingham or Manchester. But were you prepared for, I mean, like you said, you were shadowing at EastEnders, based in London or outskirts of London, to going up north. Were you prepared for the environment that you were going into?
I think I was a bit naive, I do. We have actually moved out of London, so we actually currently reside in Wolverhampton. So I was sort of like middle of the road, like Midlands. But the Midlands is historically very friendly and historically very diverse actually. And Wolverhampton is a very diverse, sleepy, lovely town. So then I think having the whole summer just before, like from June to August, to kind of settle into a new home and get the girls settled and stuff, we sort of went, and we had my best friend Tash and her family there, who were godparents for our children. So that cushion, that blanket of familiarity was there. But then to go further up the train line to Liverpool, and you know, the accent's even more different, and therefore your London accent really stands out, your look stands out, the way you approach things stands out. And then, like I say, you've got the added labels of being a woman and being a person of colour. And then so you're walking around Line Pictures because it's a massive studio of different sets. There's like 7 or 8 sets there, like there's in blocks of sets, so houses, salons, homes, this, that. Yeah, you do, it's like spot the black person or spot, you know, the female of colour. Oh wow, you know. And I think I was naive. And I'd say to anyone who's new and thinking of working in TV, or outside of your own structure of your own production companies, to just sort of just know yourself, you know, in the sense of it's still changing. It's, you know, this is England, and England is diverse in pockets. Very passive aggressive, so sometimes not, you know, there's an old guard of people that are, you know, haven't been to school with people who are Polish or Kurdish or Nigerian. Their children might have, but they haven't. And for white men in our industry, you know, they will be working until they are in the grave. They will always get those jobs. They will always be directing. And I had one director that was there as a mentor saying, you know, well, if I was one of the lads in my 40s or 50s, I would see you as a threat. I would see you as somebody that was taking my job. And I was like, but you've been working for like 60 years. Like, there's always going to be work for you because you've got the relationships. You're the right gender, the right colour. So no one's ever going to say no to you. But yeah, this block, they might say, yeah, you know what, we'll get Claire back for that because it's heavily romantic drama in this one. So, and we know she can deliver. So why can't I stand next to you? And then that additional conversation turned into, oh, and then obviously if we get a situation where there's more of you than us, surely you guys are going to be the ones to start, you know, doing the passive aggressive, you know, and the negativity. And I said, listen, let me tell you something. I'm African. And as an African, our spirit is love. We've been taught how to do all the extra stuff to survive in these environments. But Africans, Nigerians, listen, 4919 and all this other nonsense that we hear about. But our spirit is love. So there would never be a flip of a switch where we're suddenly the aggressors. That's just not who we are. If we were left alone, we would just be enjoying life. You know what I mean? Like we've never tried to enslave or override, or we just want to create greatness and live and enjoy. And we always welcome people as opposed to make people feel ostracized or alienated. We're the first people to celebrate other people's cultures whilst celebrating our own. And he just really paused, and I could see in his 76-year-old white head that he was like, wow, like,
Food for thought.
wow, like, yeah, okay. Like, he never heard that as a response, but he just said, good. And I thought, okay.
My job here is done.
Literally, mic dropped and take care. But yeah, I mean, so I think, like I say, it's annoying and it's a waste of energy. But, my hope and prayer is that by the time my daughters are 18, 21, and they're thinking about seriously their career, and if they want a career in this industry, that they will know, wow, my mum did this, my dad did that, our peers, our friends, family have achieved this. There is a place for me here. And maybe it is for us as first generation migrants to deal with some of the hard knocks, to make space for others that are coming after us. It's never easy being the pioneer. It's never easy being the innovator. It's never easy being the first or the fifth or the sixth or the seventh, the single figures, but hopefully someone in the future will thank me and say, thanks, Claire, because of you, I know that I can do it.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I actually forgot to mention before, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the third Black female director in Hollyoaks history.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, it's been around for 27 years.
27 years.
And I'm betting maybe the other two were more recently as well. I don't know.
One was recently and the other one wasn't for 20 years. So there was a 20-year gap even. And that's, whoa.
Yeah, it's very alarming, isn't it? But on more of a light-hearted note,
Yeah.
we spoke about your lovely husband, Emmanuel, before. He is BUFF founder and former festival director. You are a power couple if I ever did see one. How have you found balancing motherhood with being an indie filmmaker, a mainstream filmmaker, TV maker, while also maintaining a marriage, but with a husband who you also work with? It's a lot of hats that you're juggling, a lot of crossover. How have you found it? What kind of pressures?
It's really easy because I think we both share like a geekdom and a geekiness about film. We love film and TV and both wanted to be in it as children. So we don't have to convince each other of each other's desires or passions or what they want to achieve. And we merely support it, but I always make the business case. Whereas Emmanuel's probably more philanthropic because he's come from quite a working middle class background, whereas I came from the gutter. Like mum and dad came in very poor with nothing. So I think therefore I am probably less risk averse to a certain degree, but also very risk averse because I'm happy to set up businesses and try a thing. In terms of
always try a thing.
Everybody. I think in terms of like relationship and being very clear about what is personal and being very clear about what is professional, like that would be my advice, because a lot of women in this industry actually leave because they're like, I can't balance being a mom and being a director, or I can't balance because my partner doesn't get my goals or they don't get my dreams, or we're flush and then we're broke, we're flush and then we're broke, blinds me, I have no money. And then we've got loads of money suddenly and it's like, oh, so we don't have that regular 9-to-5 income. So, like we sell movies in different territories, or, we're writing for things, or now I'm working in TV, that's an additional income, or we're teaching, writing and screenwriting, different forms of income. So, it's hard to kind of nail down like major routes when your income life is slightly like topsy-turvy. But I think what we've really just done and we're going to do more of in 2023 is to simplify our sort of outgoings and our workload. We were developing quite a lot of filmmakers at BUFF Studios, and we're probably not going to be in a position to do that because it's hard. Every time you're developing something, you're almost like raising another child. And so we've had to kind of be very, selective about that 24 hours in a day and what are we doing with those 24 hours, and what really has legs to kind of go the whole distribution route, and what is a nice project, but really, you know, it's not going to do much outside of, say, the festival circuit. So we've just had to really manage, you know, our workload so that we can, when we're mum and dad with the girls, and they're not always sort of seeing us with a device in our hand, and therefore we're giving them a device like, keep quiet girls, whilst I'm trying to send like 100 emails. It's not fair on them. So we're trying to get more balance, but you know, I wouldn't pick on anybody out there. I would say, you know, like, you're doing your best. And they say, you know, if you can spend 20 solid minutes a day with your children, you've done a great job. About, oh, you know, parents today, they just give their kids an iPad. Yeah, we're not stay-at-home mums like we were in the 60s and 70s, where the man would go out and, you know, when I was at Hollyoaks, Emmanuel was doing the nursery run, bath and bed, because I'm in Liverpool for 3 months. That's a reality. You know, now he's about to do a run with his film, and I'll be stay-at-home mum, and then we'll swap again when I go back to Hollyoaks. Or I've also been confirmed to show run for the African Movie Academies in Nigeria in October.
Amazing.
So we'll bring the kids with us. Like, there's different things, you know. So yeah.
Well, you guys are absolutely killing it.
Thank you.
So I think we have time for some audience questions if anyone has anything they'd like to ask Claire. I'm sure you have burning questions that I haven't covered.
I just wanted to ask a question actually. Hey Claire.
Hi,
Hey.
you actually came.
Yeah.
We was partying together on Saturday. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. I've really enjoyed the talk. I just was wondering, like, your process of like learning to direct and how that came about, and was it just like learning on the job, or like, obviously when you move into soap you have to like, so do you have to submit your camera scripts
Yes,
and
you
stuff
do.
like that?
Yes, you do.
And what was that learning journey of how to do that?
After, like, that's 2 parts. So for me to be in a position to do No Shade, I actually used a lot of, I'm a qualified drama teacher, can you imagine? Like, scientist, drama teacher. I qualified
What
as a
don't you
drama,
do?
I know, as a drama teacher, so that basically I would never starve, and that if the acting and directing work dries up, I could always get a teaching job anywhere in the world, right? And pay my bills. So I'm a qualified teacher. I've been a qualified teacher for 12 years. I did that before I set up pre-May. And so when I was at schools teaching A-level drama, you know, it's all kind of theatre, setups like this, a black box where you direct actors. I would relish those opportunities to do that, and just blocking, and then you use the camera to actually film their exam and send it off to NXL, whatever the examining board is, AQA. So I was almost subconsciously training for my own big breaks. You know what I mean? Using smaller theatre moments and saying, okay, if there was a camera here, I would have it there, I would have it there. So when I actually started with No Shade, I didn't even have clear camera plans. If Isra's watching this at home, he'll be like, Claire, you came to set with like your camera plans written. I'm a bit old school. I like to write things out as opposed to draw. So I'd be like, yeah, mid close up on his face, you know, over the shoulder on that, I can talk it, but draw it, no.
Yeah.
And so I think if you ever get any opportunity to direct anything, like a theatre production, a live script reading, take it, because directing is constant practice, and I don't think you'll ever be perfect, and I don't think being perfect is the win. The win is excellence. No one should be striving for perfection, because you can always better your best. So by the time I got to Hollyoaks, I watched the show for like a year's worth of show. So from December to June, July, I would come home most nights. And I'll be honest, I didn't really want to watch it. Like, the show isn't what it was, you know, in the 90s and 2000s. It's good. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? I love the show. But some of the storylines, I was like, nah, right, this is predictable. But I watched it because I was watching to see who are those reoccurring directors that keep getting booked? Because it says written by blah, directed by blah at the top of the episode. What camera choices are they making? And I would jot down, because there's a formula, there's a style, And a lot of the old guard will go, look, Claire, in this set we do this, we do that. You can get an establishing shot there, and we're getting out. Anyone for the pub? Do you know what I mean? Like there's a style and an energy. So you want to come in and you want to bring the crane, and they're going to be like, no, love. What we're going to do is you're going to have your dolly. You're going to do that. You're going to, they're going to walk through that door because that behind that door there's nothing there. Yeah. A lot of it you will learn on the set. And what I've actually asked the execs to do is to get new directors, so the next Claire, to come in for 2 days to shadow, but to shadow with the DOP, the director of photography, who is literally creating your pictures for you, so that you can say to them, is there anything about this set that I should know about? And they'll be like, yeah, this is a nightmare to light. Never put your cameras over here. Put them all over by the sink, or put them all in Goldie's bedroom or whatever, because you don't want to learn that on set. And a lot of stuff I was learning on set, and it is eating into your time, and you don't want to do much pickup days. You want to do as much as you can on your allocated time. So I would say, yeah, keep practicing on how to direct. Direct yourself. I think you're an actress, right? Write some stuff. 2, 3, 4 scenes, 10 minutes of dialogue, right? In a flat, in your house, at the local park, and just set up your camera. Edit it together on iMovie, something that's free app on your phone, and just keep on flexing that directing muscle. Me coming here every year, directing the short scripts and the script winning awards, right? 3 writers win each year. We've awarded 30 over the last 7 years. Something of that nature. And I used to direct their scripts for the reading, and really use it as an opportunity. Some of those writers now write for Killing Eve and multi-BAFTA winning shows. And, they started out here, so that's fantastic.
Amazing. Anyone else? I can see, yeah. Yeah, sir.
Hey, Vic.
Hi, Claire. Richards here. Listen, it's not really a question. It's more of I just want to express my feelings, my thoughts, and how much I'm really was really enjoying everything. Obviously, we've worked together in terms of working on my movie, and I can really appreciate the, if you like, the backdrop behind you. Because I've seen you at the front in terms of what you've been doing for my film, FBWG. But now coming here all the way from Leicester here today, and hearing this, I just want to thank you. Really appreciate it.
Oh, bless you.
Inspired, that's the word I'm looking for. I'm so inspired.
Bless you. I was doing we was doing PR work for Victor's film, which he wrote and is the star of, produced as well, called Streets Paved with Gold. And so my PR company, On Point Comms, was handling all of your social media so that you could focus on your pickup scenes and your post-production, and that's what it's about. I mean, Victor's been a part of the festival in 2018 as well, when the feature film was a short. And see, there's that journey as well for filmmakers, where you come in as a short filmmaker and the idea has legs, has an audience, which is the Windrush. Celebrated 70 years of Windrush. I did a short film called Windrush Stories, a short documentary interviewing the first settlers that came over here, some of them who sadly now have passed since the pandemic. Some of them have been deported back, because of this ridiculous, conservative government. But you've done a fiction version of that, a narrative version, and it's just wonderful to see your development, so humble. You've got your own backstory of coming from a multi-creative discipline as well, fashion and modelling and all different facets. So thank you for coming all the way down. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your lovely comment, Victor. I think there was someone did you have your hand up, one of you? Yes.
Just press the button on the phone for the battery. Yeah, go ahead though.
I just had a question. I know that you also produce, and as you said, you put legs in your projects, and you're also developing other creators.
Yeah.
So my question was, what kind of stories interest you, and what would you like to see more moving forward? Not in terms of specifically the filmmakers, but the stories that you're the most interested about and you would like to see more on the cinemas.
Wow, that's a really cool question. What stories? So like, what do I think's missing, or just like what would I like
What
to
would you
bring
like
to
to
fruition?
see?
I would like to see more. I would like to see more rom-coms. I've got a huge love for romantic comedy. I think where we're at in society, because Love is Blind on Netflix and all these other shows are doing so well, they've kind of replaced the rom-com, because now you've got real people falling in love for the clout.
Sometimes there's a little comedy though.
Yeah, oh my god, I'm literally like running off set from Hollyoaks to go and watch like Married at First Sight, you know what I mean? Like I'm all in there. But I think, you know, there's those personal experiences that I think would be lovely fodder for the big screen to show different you know, ethnicities and different romantic relationships and how culturally we deal with those different things. I think they still really haven't been explored. And there's like a 20-25 year dearth of like no real like black British rom-coms in the cinema. I think that we're lacking with regards to like sci-fi and you know, female-led as in action and females behind the camera. So I think yeah, I think there's you know, there seems to be like this real big, oh, okay, but you know, we've got Black Panther and that is great, but that's Disney and that is you know, very, you know, it's going to benefit African American storytellers, you know, the next Ryan Coogler. It's not going to benefit me, sadly. You know, him doing well doesn't really help me. So I think there needs to be more financial support for seeing homegrown British talent getting to a place where we can direct, you know, million, 10 million, 20 million, let alone, you know, 100 million. We're nowhere near that. You know, the amount of films that are being made right now, especially the ones that we show at Buff, I'm sure most of the budgets are like 50 grand or less. So in terms of financial disparity, like we've got multi-millions to get to in terms of handling that budget. So that's what I would like to see, more trust and more people being able to kind of fail their way to success as opposed to being like, oh my God, like if I failed then I have like messed it up for everyone. But why? You know, Tarantino has bad movies. We don't all love all of the things that he's made. But they were given that you know, first film, second film, third film. And I think that's really, really important for us to learn and grow on the job, but also, like I said before, start your training and preparation on your own money, in your own time. If you've got a weekend, if I didn't have children, I'd probably have about 12 films out. You'd be able to stop me. I'd be like, right, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Now I'm like, oh my God, I'm drained. I'm going to focus on the money, and I've got to use my time. But without children, you lot should be, if you don't have children, you lot should be making something, try and aim to make something at least once every 3 or 4 months, you know. Even if it doesn't make its way out of your laptop, it was well worth doing that to keep training.
Thank you.
Nice. Any other questions? Well,
Half one, nice.
yeah, right on time. So yeah, because Claire isn't busy enough, she's also writing a book.
Yes, oh my goodness. And yeah, because I'm using my phone to record, but it's all good. Basically, I've got a sort of trilogy of books coming. They're already written, but I'm just sort of finding the right moment, which might actually be March for International Women's Day, because they are kind of for women filmmakers, but I've sort of changed the title because there's a lot of guys that do look at what I'm doing too. And so it's one of them's called First Time Female Screenwriter, First Time Female Director, First Time Female Producer, but I might just take the female out of each of the titles because it's more accessible to everyone. Like I say, everyone has a first time, and I think if I can impart that knowledge of all those things that I did on No Shade, you know, a talk like this in a book that you guys can read and actually go, okay, because there's going to be anecdotes that won't come to my head right now, but later I'll be like, oh damn, I should have told them about that story. Those stories will be in the book. And there is something about being a first-time writer, there is something about being a first-time director, but also when you're doing it on your own money, you obviously are a producer. So what are those mistakes that I've learned? What are those success stories? What are those things that I can save you lot time and energy, you know, through my story? Because that's what makes people wise, is when they learn from other people's mistakes and successes. So does that sound like a book, a trilogy, a trio that you'd like to read? Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Well then, when I'll stay in touch with you all. Let's swap details outside, and I'll send you all, you know, the Amazon links when they go online and stuff. And yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Are there any resources that you found helpful when you were first getting into filmmaking that maybe might be helpful for others?
There was a screenplay book that taught me how to like structurally write, and writing for TV and writing for film are very different. Again, that will be in my book. And then I think now, like I say, like with a device like a 4K phone of any brand, and then you've got apps on there that are free, you should just be editing and directing all the time, because that's another thing. As a director at Hollyoaks, you also go into the editing room for 4 days, and you work with the editor, again, to call the shots and to edit your episodes. And so, you know, if you've planned and done a lot of good planning and your camera plans up front, when you get to that edit, you should have everything you need. But, you know, you might push that scene up and take that scene out completely, because now it's just doesn't make sense, or you know, it just you know, doesn't really hang together, or you're seeing too much of one storyline and it comes around a bit too quickly. So editing has, you know, editing and directing go together, just like writing and directing go together as well. And then producing is sort of like the umbrella that makes all of those things come together. So yes.
So this is all new to me, but if I wanted to, I'm guessing your first time, you're not just a director or producer or writer, right? You have to be a marketeer, a financer.
True.
Because you're on your own, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Will your book cover that in terms of like, if you were to start on your own, all the things you need to consider, the skill sets you need
100%.
to have?
In the producer book, I would definitely mention that, because I think you're absolutely right. You need to know how to budget. You need to know what, like, even if you don't know, like a 45-page budget.
So
You need to, thank you so much. You need to know how to, you know, look at a top sheet. So like, how much am I going to spend on my cast? Is it equity minimums? Is it a bit less than that? Is it just, you know, cheese and wine? You know, is it, you know, how much am I putting into my locations? There's a budget for everything. And I will definitely share that in the producing one. So the first one that is absolutely ready is the screenwriting. The directing, I'm just putting the final touches on that, and then the producing one will probably come out third, across the first part of next year.
And the
Yeah.
marketeer, how to sell yourself.
The marketing
isn't it?
stuff, I think we'll go into producing, because what you've touched on is a role now that is now known in the industry as PMD. And a PMD is a producer, producer of marketing and distribution. Because the three are a three-pronged approach. And it's almost like before you make a film, you should be thinking about your poster, your branding, your collateral, your social media campaign, your distribution angle. Is this a film that's for universities? You know, is this an educational piece? Is this a film that's just for festivals as my business card to get me known? Is this a film I seriously think could do some numbers at the box office? Who are my cast? Or is the story so strong and, you know, political, or in mine a theme about colorism, which was like a burgeoning social trend at the time? Everyone got drawn into it. Like Beyonce's dad reached out to us and was like, "Can I come and do the Q&A?" But then he wanted like, you know,
Beyonce kind of money.
yeah. And I was like, we're not quite there yet, so maybe there's a sequel. But he was genuinely interested because he had just written a book about colorism. So the story was like wildfire, it travelled, but because I know how to do marketing, it was able to do so. So how do I know how to do marketing? What is what is marketing and what is marketing for film? I think, yeah, the producing book would really cover that. So
Yeah, nice. There were a couple of, I guess, statistics or facts that I found on gov.uk, so the government website, and I thought it was quite interesting. Sometimes we focus on the negative statistics when it comes to diversity in film, but these were actually quite surprising. I found I didn't know, for someone who's not in the filmmaking industry, and it might be interesting for those who want to appeal to a diverse audience. So it found that diverse audiences tend to be heavier film consumers compared to the national average, which I was really surprised about. And Asian and Black communities are among the audiences who attend cinema more frequently than the national average. So all over 30% for very regular, compared to 14% for the national average.
wow.
Yeah, and these audiences have an above average affinity for cinema, with over 1 in 2 Black Eastern European audiences saying that cinema remains the best place to watch film. And it was noted that they really crave authenticity and stories that relate to them, their everyday life, and yeah, I guess just topics that aren't covered, like colorism, in No Shade. So again, it's just to encourage you guys to don't give up. You know, the audiences are there. These stories do, you know, people want to hear these stories. So yeah, I just thought those were really interesting stats that I hadn't heard.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's the word as well, authenticity. I think in this day and age where we've got fake news, we've got huge distractions, people are looking for those stories that tell a truth, you know, with embellishments and, you know, enjoyment to that is cinematic, but that essentially, you know, reveal, or there's a bit of an edutainment to it as well, that really draws in an audience and gets people talking for you. And I think a lot of people were talking about my film because they were experiencing colorism, but there wasn't really a word for it until my film arrived. In America, they were calling it shadeism. But by the time No Shade started coming out, and there was this like whole, I mean, I think a woman called Grapevine, and she was doing like this thing online about it, and then she said, you know, you guys are calling it, I think, colorism, and I was like, oh, is that what it is? It's colorism. And so, you know, we kind of discovered this thing together, and then the film became like a reference point that it actually is existing. Because again, some people are like, oh, it's just all in your head, no one's even, it's like, no, it's not in women's heads. It's happening. Acknowledge it. What are we going to do to change it, you know? Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Claire, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Alicia.
you.
Thanks for doing this, and thanks for supporting Buff. And the conversation can carry on at Twitter, BU Film Festival, Instagram, BU Film Fest. And you can follow Alicia. What's your handles?
Alicia Adejobi, ALICIA ADEJOBI, everywhere.
Everywhere. Great. And I'm Clare Anyiam-O, everywhere as well. So yeah, there's tickets on sale now for films that are shown tonight. If you want, stay on for a next talk with the head of diversity and inclusion at All Free Media, which is the super indie that actually owns Lime Pictures and Hollyoaks. They also do The Only Way is Essex. Annika Allen, she'll be here from 3 o'clock. So she's going to talk about her journey in that space, and what, you know, if you're an actor or somebody who's looking to get into TV, you should definitely stay on for that talk. So yeah, thank you so much for joining, Buff.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.